The scarcity mindset. Imagine a constant hum in the back of your mind, a feeling that resources are finite, opportunities are slipping away, or time is running out. This is the scarcity mindset. It profoundly shapes how we perceive the world. When scarcity takes hold, our focus narrows like a spotlight on an immediate, pressing need. We concentrate intently on what we lack: money, time, even connections. Other aspects of life blur into the periphery. This hyperfocus, while seemingly efficient, often impairs judgment. Under the pressure of perceived shortage, we become less adept at long-term planning. We might make impulsive decisions, sacrificing future gains for immediate relief. Someone worried about their next meal might choose a quickly available, low-paying job over investing time to find a more stable, high-paying position. Or an individual feeling time-poor might rush a crucial project, diminishing its overall quality. Scarcity extends beyond material possessions. It applies to our attention, our energy, our sense of belonging. The feeling that there aren't enough good ideas, enough loyal friends, or enough hours in the day can trigger the same cognitive patterns. This constrained perspective can, ironically, perpetuate the very lack it seeks to alleviate. The urgent demands of the present often eclipse the foresight needed for better tomorrow, trapping individuals in a cycle where they are always reacting, never truly planning. This isn't a moral failing, it's a profound cognitive shift, reshaping our decisions and our lives. Lost opportunity cost. Consider Sarah, an ambitious entrepreneur with a difficult choice. She has two compelling business ideas. The first, a charming local bakery specializing in organic, artisanal breads. The second, an online subscription service delivering unique, ethically sourced coffees directly to customers' homes. Both demand significant time, capital, and commitment. Sarah, passionate about baking, pours her life savings and every waking hour into the bakery. She secures a prime location, buys top-of-the-line ovens, and meticulously crafts her sourdough. The bakery opens, attracting a loyal local following, and slowly builds a reputation. It covers its costs, perhaps even earns a modest profit after a few years. What about the coffee subscription? It remained just an idea. Sarah never explored its market potential, never built the website, never contacted suppliers. Unbeknownst to her, a competitor launched a strikingly similar coffee service just months later, leveraging social media to build a massive global customer base, quickly becoming a multi-million-dollar enterprise. The untold story here isn't about what Sarah spent, but what she gave up. Her investment in the bakery meant she forfeited the potential, possibly far greater, returns from the coffee business. This unseen, often unquantifiable cost the value of the next best alternative you didn't pursue's opportunity cost. Every decision we make, from the smallest daily choice to the largest strategic investment, carries this hidden price tag. It tests the profit to me, the experience and lived, the future and built because a different path was chosen. And acknowledging this invisible ledger can profoundly reshape how we approach our next decision. Time-value mismatch. Our brains are wired for the immediate. We instinctively prioritize what is directly in front of us, the pressing deadline, the immediate reward, the visible problem. This inherent bias towards the present moment makes perfect evolutionary sense. Yet, it creates a profound challenge when we face decisions with consequences that unfold across decades, even centuries. This is the heart of the time-value mismatch. Consider the infrastructure we rely on: daily: roads, bridges, power grids. Building them demands immense resources and political will in the short term, but their benefits accrue slowly, over generations. The true return on that investment isn't felt for decades. Similarly, the urgent need to address climate change presents costs now, transitioning energy systems, redesigning cities, altering agricultural practices. The benefits, however, are largely preventative and appear far down the line, in the form of avoided disasters or a more stable planet for future populations. This disconnect between immediate cost or effort and delayed reward makes long-term thinking incredibly difficult, not just for individuals, but for entire societies and their leaders. Politicians operate on election cycles, businesses on quarterly reports, and many consumers on immediate gratification. Each prioritizes short-term results, often at the expense of sustainable, future-oriented solutions. The consequences are cumulative. We defer maintenance on critical systems, knowing failure is distant. We deplete natural resources today, pushing scarcity onto our children. The time-value mismatch forces us to grapple with the fundamental question: how do we assign enough weight to a future we can barely perceive, when the present demands our full attention? Compromised quality. The blueprint always calls for the best materials, the most meticulous processes, and ample time for rigorous testing. But reality often introduces a different set of demands. As markets shrink or expand too quickly, as competition intensifies, or as profit margins face relentless pressure, the first casualty is often something less tangible: quality. It's rarely a single, drastic decision, but rather a series of subtle shifts. Boardrooms, far removed from the factory floor, start making choices to shave costs. This might mean sourcing cheaper, less durable components from a new, untested supplier. It could involve reducing the number of critical quality control checks, pushing products through the assembly line faster than optimal, or even cutting vital training programs for staff. The high-grade steel becomes a lesser ally. Comprehensive diagnostics shrink to cursory spot checks. What once required careful, skilled assembly now gets rushed, sacrificing precision for speed. Each small adjustment, seemingly insignificant on its own, accumulates. The initial financial benefit appears clear: lower production costs, faster time to market, a more competitive price point. But the ripple effect soon becomes apparent. Products fail sooner. Components wear out prematurely. Customer service lines jam with complaints. The initial savings often vanish beneath mounting warranty claims, repair costs, and, most damagingly, a slow erosion of consumer trust. Brands built over decades can see their reputation crumble, not from a single catastrophic failure, but from a relentless accumulation of small compromises, each one dimming the luster of what was once reliable. The true cost, it seems, extends far beyond the bottom line, impacting the very faith consumers place in what they buy. Healthily collect. Many of us understand the value of a healthy body, yet countless individuals quietly neglect their own well-being. This isn't always a conscious choice, but often the slow erosion of priorities. Consider the common cold that turns into bronchitis because rest was sacrificed for deadlines, or the dull ache dismissed for months until it becomes debilitating pain. Why do people ignore clear warning signs? Finances often play a major role. High deductibles, lack of insurance, or the perceived cost of time off work can push essential doctor visits down the priority list. Fear also paralyzes action: fear of a grim diagnosis, fear of invasive procedures, or even the fear of confronting necessary lifestyle changes. Beyond financial strain and fear, a widespread lack of health literacy contributes significantly. People simply don't recognize the gravity of subtle symptoms. They might misinterpret persistent fatigue as normal tiredness or dismiss changes in body function as part of aging. This informational gap allows preventable conditions to worsen unseen, developing quietly into chronic diseases. Consequences stretch far beyond individual suffering. Neglected health places immense strain on healthcare systems, drives up long-term costs, and impacts productivity on a societal scale. When a population consistently postpones care, the collective health burden grows heavier, demanding more resources and limiting a community's potential. This cycle often perpetuates itself, becoming harder to break with each passing year. Social isolation. Beyond the simple act of being alone lies a more profound, often unseen state: social isolation. It is not merely the absence of company, it is the subjective feeling of having fewer social connections than desired, or a stark lack of quality in those connections. Crucially, it differs from loneliness. Loneliness is a painful emotional response to a perceived deficit in social relationships, a feeling. Isolation, however, is an objective condition, a measurable absence of meaningful social contact. One can feel lonely in a crowded room, while another might be isolated in a quiet apartment without initially feeling lonely at all. This distinction is vital because social isolation is fast becoming a pervasive public health concern. In an era of unprecedented digital connectivity, where millions are theoretically reachable at any moment, a growing number of individuals report feeling profoundly disconnected. Life transitions, rapid urbanization, the rise of remote work, or even just the subtle shifts in how we engage with each other, all contribute to this quiet epidemic. The impact stretches far beyond emotional discomfort. Chronic social isolation significantly elevates risks for severe health conditions. Research links it directly to increased inflammation, weakened immune systems, heightened blood pressure, and a greater susceptibility to heart disease and stroke. Mentally, it fuels anxiety, exacerbates depression, and even accelerates cognitive decline in older adults. It silently erodes well-being, often without immediate, visible symptoms, posing a hidden danger in our seemingly connected world. Stunted personal growth, stuck, stagnant, and moving. This isn't just about failing to achieve a specific goal. It's about a deeper, more pervasive sensation, the feeling that your internal landscape, your very being, has ceased to evolve. We talk about personal growth as a continuous journey, but for many, that journey stalls. The individual stops learning, stops adapting, stops transforming in meaningful ways. Often, this stagnation stems from a powerful, yet invisible, anchor: the comfort zone. Stepping outside requires vulnerability, the risk of failure, and the discomfort of uncertainty. So instead, we cling to what's familiar. We repeat old behaviors, even if they no longer serve us. We might also be held back by past experiences, a previous setback that taught us to avoid risk, or ingrained beliefs about our own limitations. External expectations play a role too. Sometimes, the people around us, perhaps unconsciously, reinforce an older version of ourselves, making it harder to break free and redefine who we are. Signs aren't always dramatic. It might manifest as a pervasive sense of boredom, a quiet dissatisfaction with life, or a tendency to react to new situations with old, unhelpful patterns. Opportunities for change are met with resistance, not excitement. Conversations become repetitive, insights stale. The world moves on, but the individual remains anchored, often unaware of the subtle ways they are limiting their own potential. This isn't just about missing out on new experiences, it's about the silent atrophy of capabilities, the slow dimming of the spark that drives genuine self-discovery. Recognizing this state is the first, often difficult, step towards reclaiming one's evolutionary path. The false economy. We often judge an economy by its headline numbers, rising GDP, robust markets, impressive corporate profits. But what if these metrics disguise a deeper fragility? What if growth itself can become a misleading indicator, built on foundations that cannot truly sustain us? This is the core of a false economy. Consider a system where financial transactions overshadow actual production. Speculation drives up asset prices, creating paper wealth that feels real, but lacks tangible underpinnings. Debt expands relentlessly, not to fund groundbreaking innovation or build essential infrastructure, but to fuel consumption or simply service existing obligations, pushing the financial burden onto tomorrow. Resources are consumed without accountability for their true environmental cost, externalized away from corporate balance sheets, leaving future generations to bear the severe burden. This model prioritizes short-term financial gain over long-term societal well-being. It rewards rent-seeking behavior more than genuine value creation, fostering a disconnect between productive activity and perceived success. The perceived prosperity it generates often concentrates among a select few, while many struggle with stagnant wages, diminishing opportunities, and a constant sense of precarity. The entire structure appears stable, yet beneath the surface, crucial elements degrade. This system generates a powerful illusion of progress, but it often operates like a well-decorated building with a crumbling foundation, waiting for the cracks to. Debt Avoidance Paradox. For many, the mantra is simple: avoid debt at all costs. We are taught to fear it, to see it as a financial trap, a burden that crushes dreams. And for good reason, uncontrolled debt certainly can be. But what if this deep-seated aversion, while seemingly prudent, actually creates its own set of financial challenges? This is the debt avoidance paradox. Consider the young professional who meticulously saves for years, paying cash for everything, even a modest first home. While commendable for its discipline, this path might mean missing out on significant gain. A strategically utilized mortgage, for instance, could have allowed them to enter the housing market years earlier, capitalizing on appreciation and building equity, all while freeing up cash for investments or emergencies. Same applies to education or starting a small business. Fearing a student loan, some might forego a higher paying degree, limiting their lifetime earning potential. A reluctance to take on a startup loan, even a small one, could prevent an innovative idea from ever reaching the market. It's a delicate balance. While reckless borrowing is indeed dangerous, a complete phobia of debt can ironically limit growth. It can prevent you from building a credit history, which becomes essential for major life purchases. It can keep capital tied up when it could be deployed more effectively. The paradox lies in the fact that sometimes, a calculated use of debt isn't a burden, but a tool for financial acceleration. Burnout and deprivation. Burnout isn't just about exhaustion. It's about depletion. A slow, grinding erosion of our mental and emotional reserves, often rooted in profound deprivation. We typically associate deprivation with basic needs: food, water, shelter. But in the context of our psychological well-being, it extends far beyond. Individuals are deprived when their work offers no sense of purpose, when their efforts feel futile, or when their voice goes unheard. They might lack control over their tasks, receive insufficient recognition, or endure an absence of genuine connection with colleagues. Consider the constant pressure to be on, accessible, and productive, often extending well beyond traditional working hours. This digital tether can subtly deprive us of genuine rest, of the quiet space needed for reflection, and of the ability to fully disconnect. When personal boundaries dissolve, we lose the crucial distinction between our professional roles and our inner selves. This isn't merely fatigue, it's a deep emotional and spiritual exhaustion that leaves individuals feeling cynical, ineffective, and profoundly alienated from their work and even themselves. Such an environment, where fundamental human needs for autonomy, mastery, and belonging are systematically unmet, becomes a fertile ground for burnout. It is a silent, spreading condition, not always visible, yet it quietly undermines creativity, problem-solving, and the very fabric of human connection. The question then becomes, what happens when an entire society operates under the increasing weight of such widespread, chronic deprivation? Delayed life. For generations, our familiar life blueprint guided us. education, career, marriage, children, home ownership. Milestones often arrived in a predictable sequence, celebrated at roughly the same age across communities. But for a growing number of individuals, this sequence is unraveled. Life isn't following the old script, it's being significantly delayed, not just by months, but by years, even decades. This isn't merely about personal choice, it reflects profound societal shifts that reshape individual trajectories. Young adults today often face a job market demanding more advanced degrees, accumulating substantial student debt before even entering their chosen field. Stagnant wages in many sectors, coupled with soaring housing costs, make financial independence a distant horizon. The traditional path to stability, once a clear sprint, has transformed into a complex marathon with shifting finish lines. Marriage, for example, now occurs later than ever before in many Western countries, with the average age steadily rising into the late 20s and early 30s. The decision to have children also pushes further, often into one's mid or late 30s, or even beyond, impacting not just personal timelines but national birth rates. This widespread postponement isn't just a statistical anomaly, it fundamentally reshapes individual lives, relationships, and broader demographic trends. What happens when key formative experiences are consistently pushed back, or perhaps skipped entirely? The concept of adulthood itself is being redefined, not by a fixed age, but by an increasingly elusive collection of achievements that now arrive much later, if at all. Mental exhaustion. Mental exhaustion is far more than simply feeling tired. It is a profound depletion of your cognitive reserves, a state where the brain struggles to process information, focus attention, or regulate emotions. Unlike physical fatigue, where a good night's sleep often provides a clear reset, mental exhaustion involves a deep weariness of the mind itself. It manifests as a persistent inability to concentrate, make sound decisions, or engage in creative thought. The relentless demands of modern life frequently push us toward this critical state. Sustained high-pressure work, continuous digital input, and the constant emotional labour of navigating complex social landscapes all contribute to this draining. Your brain, much like a computer running too many applications simultaneously, eventually slows, glitches, and risks overheating. When mentally exhausted, even routine tasks become overwhelmingly difficult. Simple conversations feel like monumental efforts, memory lapses become common, and irritability often replaces patience. The ability to solve problems diminishes, and what were once minor annoyances escalate into significant stressors. This isn't a sign of weakness, it is a clear and critical signal that the brain's energy resources are dangerously low. Ignoring these signals doesn't just reduce immediate productivity, it slowly erodes your capacity for joy, connection, and a fundamental sense of well-being, pushing you towards a silent breaking point where the very act of thinking feels like an unbearable burden, forcing a fundamental question about the pace of our lives.